Welcome back to Best Kept Secrets. These are untold stories of survival and hope. And I am Dawn Leday, your host with the Lifehouse Project. And today we have Terri L. Moore. She is a certified empowerment coach with a simple goal. She wants to coach you out of your past. Her mission is to help individuals of any age, particularly women, to eliminate emotional triggers, find their true self, and illuminate their inner power. She is an author and the co-founder, executive director of a domestic violence crisis center, coach, and a speaker. So welcome, Terri. We are so thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yes. So Terri, tell us this drive to help women and to help organizations and nonprofits that support women who have been through tough times.
Sure, I'd be glad to. My passion and my drive is based on my own personal story. I was raised in a dysfunctional family, and basically there was a lot of verbal abuse, there was a lot of mental abuse, some physical abuse. But then when I went on to the point where to the age of 27 years old, I met a man that I thought would be my Prince Charming, only to discover that he had been carrying a very deep, dark secret. He had told me that he had been in the Marine Corps for 9 years, but he was actually in prison for first-degree murder. And then after
and
that,
how did you find this out? Because he didn't tell you, right?
he did not tell me. No, we were friends with my mom and dad, and myself were friends with his family, and no one bothered to tell me this. And how I found out on it is one day we were up at my ex father and mother-in-law's house, and we were going through some paperwork and going through some pictures, and my ex-husband was down there fishing with his dad, and then his mom got a phone call, and then I was going through the pictures and just looking and awing, the fact that this was my husband of that time, and looking how cute he was. And then I saw a document, and it said my ex-husband's name versus the state that I came from. And next thing you know, I was reading through it, and I literally went into shock, Dawn, because I found out he was not in the Marine Corps for 9 years. He was in prison for first-degree murder.
Oh my goodness. So at this point, you even said man of my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And now you find out that he's went to prison for first-degree murder.
I did. And back then there was no cell phones. So what that meant was I had to run for my life. I was shocked when I read through this document, seeing what my ex-husband had done, the person that, I lay next to every night. And now I'm going to be laying next to somebody that's a murderer. Totally shattered my life, shattered the glass in my glass ceiling. And so I ran to a restaurant, and I called my mom and dad, and I said, I think you need to come and get me because I'm fearing for my life right now. So they came and got me. And then about an hour later, my ex-husband showed up at my house, my parents' house. And he reminded me that if I didn't go back with him at that time, that he would kill my cat. He was going home to kill my cat, and then he was going to burn the house down. And you talk about going from a nice person, very gentle, very kind, considerate, give the shirt off your back, to this awful monster. And so I did have to go back because I did not want anything to happen for my dear cat. And so basically I had to stay in the house. He controlled me constantly and watched over me and had people spying on me if I left the house.
Yeah, the neighbors, he got involved.
He got neighbors involved. He was paying a couple of the guys to watch over my house. And if anybody showed up at my house or I left my house, they were supposed to call him immediately. And basically through that whole scenario, I just became a hermit pretty much, unless I was going to work. But once his secret was out, that's when the abuse started happening. He became very violent, hit me in the face every day. Well, I had black eyes, he'd try to break my bones. He would just say nasty things to me. You're not good enough. I'm going to go out and find somebody prettier enough. And, just all kinds of things. So basically, I just lost myself through all this. And I'm
Yeah,
sure you're
and
going to ask me other questions.
he also did step out on the relationship as well.
Yes, he did. Many, many, many times.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there was physical, emotional, and physical and emotional and verbal abuse.
And there was financial abuse, and then there was marital rape, because there is such thing as marital rape for those who are listening. If you are not in agreement with your husband to, have marital relationship and he forces this on you, that is marital rape. So time and time and time again, yes.
Wow. So what did you do? Did people know about this abuse?
My family, my friends, his parents, that was it. That's all that knew.
And did anyone step in to help?
They were afraid of him.
Hmm.
And I would protect them from him at all costs. And my parents couldn't do anything because he threatened them right in front of me that day that he was dragging me back to the house, that he would kill them if they tried to step in and interfere in any way.
Hmm. So you really didn't feel like you had any help or anything you could do?
There was no resources back then like there are now. There was one shelter, but when you're going through that thick of things, I had a great support system. I will say that. Where I worked, my boss and his family was extraordinarily supportive. My waitresses, because I was a head waitress, so all the waitresses were very supportive. And I didn't have church friends back then because I didn't go to a church, but I felt really taken care of, by my family. So that was very important.
Okay. So how did you get out of this?
Well, like I said, it took a while, but what happened is my girlfriend back then, she said, listen, she said, I am moving to a different apartment complex, and there's no streets, no names on the poles or anything like that. And of course, we didn't have Google and all that stuff back then. And she says, I want you and your cat to come and live with me. And we worked together too. I did not have a car because he took my car away from me. So I had to depend on her to drive me back and forth, but we worked pretty much the same schedule. So that was good. The thing about it is that I was safe and I felt safe. So what I did is I had my friends go over to where my husband worked, and they watched him like a fine-tooth comb. And if for any reason he would have left and come back to the house, they would have notified us already.
This is when you're moving. You're like getting your stuff out without him knowing.
Right.
And moving out. So there's got to be some fear going on there.
Oh, that's an understatement. There was tons of fear, but I knew my friends would not let me down, and I had a landline. So while everybody was moving things out into their truck, I was like right there focused on the phone in case I missed, any calls. And I had a friend that was a police officer, so he was standing by at that time too. But it was scary. It was definitely scary because I didn't know if maybe he slipped through a back door and came over once, his friends told him, because we planned it exactly a perfect time, because the friends that he paid to spy on me, they're gone. They're on vacation. So I knew this was going to be my chance of freedom right here. And I took it and I ran with it.
Yes. So there were a lot of factors that you had to really consider to get out safely.
Yes, absolutely.
But then you did. So you're in this new apartment. Um, does he let go? Does he just leave it?
Oh no,
Yeah.
it was about six months later. He showed up my work, and I got a warning from downstairs in a restaurant that my ex-husband was coming up the stairs. And next thing I know, he's coming up and he's got this big box of chocolate and roses and a bottle of wine. And my friends have already got notice too. So, we're running around trying to hide me and everything else. And finally, I just said, no, I'm going to go face him. He's not going to leave. He'll be out in the parking lot when I get ready to leave, So I thought, I'm just going to face him. And when I came out, he got down on his knee and he asked me to marry him again.
Mm. So
Yeah.
in those 6 months, you were able to get a divorce?
We were able to get a divorce. Yes. Yes.
Mm.
So I was married 3 months, blissful love marriage. But then after the 3-month period, it was, if I could say this, it was just hell. It was just pure
Yeah,
hell.
absolutely. So he agreed to the divorce. You're living safely out of his hands. And then he shows up 6 months later asking you to marry him again.
Yes.
What did you do?
Okay. First and foremost, when a domestic violence victim goes through what I just explained, we can become a doormat. We've already died inside, right? We lost our self-worth, our dignity, our self-respect, and our identity on top of all this. So I became a doormat pretty much. People could just walk over me. And what happened is he said, I just left your parents' house and they gave me the blessings to ask you to marry me again. And I thought, well, they're nuts, but I think they were just scared of him. And I think really, and down the road, I found out my mom and dad never thought I'd ever go back to him again. So basically, he explained to me that he has changed. He's been rehabbed. He's gone through counseling and all kinds of stuff. And he knows that each and every day that I'm not with him, he's just miserable. So he gave me this, song and dance. And then he asked me the next day if I'd go look at apartments with him. Okay. And now I'm just being vulnerable because back then I was stupid and, I was naive and I still loved him, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
And so
it was a shock. It was such a shock for him to not be that way. And what we kind of, you mentioned to me, there was a lot of sort of, you were raised kind of lonely. Yes. And so this just really, at some point, you don't have much self-trust or self-respect or self-confidence, you had mentioned.
Right.
So exactly. Is that what you mean by doormat?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I did. I went and looked at apartments with him. We moved in together. We had gone to a store and picked out rings. Well, I was going to marry him again. And well, now here comes the funny part. So everything was going wonderful. And then probably for about 3 to 4 months, and we were faithfully paying the payments on this ring. And he wanted to buy me a nice ring this time. And I said, okay. And next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call from his ex-girlfriend. And she tells me that he just left her house and that he told the kids and her that he was moving back in tonight. He was going home, leaving me and going back with her. And I'm really grateful that she gave me that warning because I was fueled to the hilt when he got home. Now, again, I had to be careful around him. I didn't know if he was going to snap or not. So I just basically asked him where he was that day. And he told me some things where he went. And I said, well, did you by any chance go to your ex-girlfriend's? And by any chance, did you tell her that you're leaving me tonight and going back with her? He says, well, I was over there, and yes, I did say that. I said, well, you going? He says, he says, I just woke up one day, looked at you, and realized how much I loved her. And I'm like, well, you've got 20 seconds to get out of my house before I call the police. I didn't have any evidence, but I've said that. And I was already, that day, everything died inside of me again. So it's just, I was reliving it again. I didn't really care if he killed me or not. And so I asked him to leave, and he went on and married her. And yeah, so that's that story.
Yeah. And you at the time, it didn't, how did you feel about it? Like, how do you feel about it then? And how do you feel about that now, him leaving and going to his?
Was hurt. I was hurt because we had talked about having kids, and once we got back together, and it was just, it makes you feel like you're worthless.
Mm,
He made me feel like I was worthless, no good, unwanted, all kinds of different things. There are so many emotions going on in that day, and I can still remember that day to even now. Now, you
oh,
ask me, how do I feel about it now?
yeah.
I'm so glad he did that, because it really woke me up to realize just what what I want to say, a immature person he was. He was
Yeah.
very unstable because he had spent that time in prison. And through all that, I just became a much stronger person.
Yeah. But for a while, you sort of went down another road where you um, abused alcohol, sold drugs, and then you had another experience with abuse.
Yes. So I was, during that time frame that I was hostage in my house, I became a full-fledged alcoholic. And then because he wasn't giving me any money, and I found somebody on the street that I was talking with, we decided we're going to sell drugs together so I can make some extra money. And so that's what I did. I started selling cocaine and pot. And then I started heavily doing it, not the cocaine at that time, but the pot. And I was really kind of unrecognizable in the mirror, so to speak. And it's when you look in the mirror, you're supposed to love you're supposed to love that person back.
Mm.
Oh, all I wanted to do is just take a hammer to that mirror and just beat it to death.
Yeah, you
So
have
back,
a question that you ask your clients, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10. How much do you love yourself? What was your answer then?
zero.
Mm,
Zero. I hated myself because I was listening to all these lies that people had told me who I was. My parents, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not intelligent enough, not, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. Don't say that. People are going to think you're crazy, and all this stuff. I listened to all those lies
mm,
about how fat I was and how I just never going to amount to anything. Those lies stuck with me for a very long time. So yes, I ask my clients a question on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Where do you see yourself loving yourself back in the mirror?
yeah. So you did at some point, you're going to the mall because you just want to feel better. So you want to go and buy something. And that's where sort of the next life-changing event happens.
Yes, I decided it's time for me to wake up and get my life somewhat back together. I was going to go to a shopping center that I grew up as a kid, and a man approached me with a knife as I was walking into the department store and pushed me back into my car, had the knife to my throat, into my breast. And I asked him what he wanted, and he said a little bit of money and a little bit of sex, and then I'll be done. I'm like, oh, okay. I was totally in shock. So you never know what you're going to say in those kind of situations. So I said, okay, I have only $60. Well, that's good enough. And then he drove me around in the parking lot. And I started looking at his profile because I needed to get all that in my brain if I decided to turn him in. And he made me do a sex act on him. Could have been a lot worse, so I'm grateful for that. And then one time he had the knife almost like into my neck where I could actually feel it. For a while it was just up here, but then he moved it over here and that was really hurting. And I knew my life was at stake, Dawn, because there was a woman 3 weeks ago that was killed in that same shopping center and stuffed in a trunk and left to die. So I had to really think very clearly. So I started lying to him. I told him I had just escaped out of the mental institution. You can't rape me. I'm already pregnant. My husband works in the security department. He's going to come out. He's going to wonder where the heck I'm at. He's going to come looking for me. And just one thing I could think of after another. And then the beautiful thing about this story is that I didn't know God. I never went to church. I didn't pray, didn't read the Bible. But then that day, I asked God if he gets me out of this situation alive, I would turn my life over to him. And as a result, I have been now walking with God for 33 years. And he's my best friend. He saved my life. And that's why I dedicated my book to him.
Yes, your book is called Face to Face with God, My Best Friend.
Yes. Yes.
So lovely. And how does this fuel your purpose now?
Oh my, it really fuels my purpose to help as many individuals as I possibly can till the day I die, to help them to understand that going through a sexual assault or a molestation at a very early age, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. He had no right to touch you, or she had no right to touch you. And for that sake, that's where I come in, and I'm very aggressive with them because I want them to know that I thought it was my fault too, but it was not my fault. It was his fault, and it was the guy that attacked me fault. I didn't ask for any of that. You know, I was living my life being happily married. I was living my life trying to go to a shopping center. I did not do that. That was not my fault. And the other thing is too, is I tried to get them back as a whole person. Because like I said earlier, all that's stripped away from us when things happen like this. So you have to learn how to be your biggest cheerleader, your biggest fan. And you need to start saying positive things about yourself and stop listening to those lies. That's why I'm so passionate of being a coach, because I get in front of these people like I am with you, Dawn, and I walk through them and I help them to silence that chatter. And then we go through a forgiveness stage, and then we go through empowerment, and then we go through vision, because I want them to learn how to just fly and soar and become unstoppable. Because I just shared my life with you and the listeners out here. I can honestly 100% tell you I'm an unstoppable woman. I am an unstoppable woman. I don't allow circumstances or people to get me down for a very long time.
I love it.
They'll try.
I have to ask, I know our listeners will want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, when you look in the mirror now, how much do you love yourself?
I give myself a loud and proud 10. And it's all about inside, okay? It's not about your gray hair, or it's not about, your bags under your eyes, or it's not about, you gaining weight or anything like that. It's about the person inside.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go on your self-discovery journey, it's an amazing feeling, because the old person will start to die and the new person will come to life. And I went through this journey. It took me about 6 weeks to go on my own journey, but it was something that I am passionate about each and every day, to help people go on their journey. And that's why I designed my coaching program the way it is. There's coaches out there that have the assessments and the tools and this and that. My program is basically based all around my experience.
Beautiful.
Thank
Well, I
you.
love your story. I love your um, dedication to walk with God and to keep that purpose for yourself, that you're safe and able to move on and help so many women today and keep doing it. Is there anything else you'd like to add for us today?
I just want to encourage everyone that no matter what age, you could be walking around right now not knowing your true authentic self. And if you would give me a chance to prove my value as a coach, I offer 30-minute complimentary discovery sessions. Flat out, no obligation, no nothing. It's just a 30-minute complimentary discovery session. And in that 30 minutes, I will ask some questions and then I can base it on where this is all stemming from. What person or what circumstance is causing you to still feel stuck in your life? The other thing I'd like to say is that I help my clients to get to that loud and proud 10, either if I'm coaching or if I'm on stage, because that person staring back at you in the mirror wants to be your best friend, because you're going to be together 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, till death do you part.
So
And that's
good.
it.
I love it. Well, if you want to know more about Terri L. Moore and her coaching, her motivational speaking, please visit www.terrilmoreandteam.com. And please, if you have a story that you would like to share, email us at survivors@lifehouseproject.org. To find out more about Lifehouse Project, please visit us at lifehouseproject.org and tune in next time for another story of survival and hope from the Lifehouse Project's best kept secrets. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.